Hello and welcome to everyone in the stream, in this video, in this talk. We will now focus on hiring with Meeting C++ for C++ and see some people in the chat. Hey, welcome to people from Canada, India, Vienna. So quite international audience today. That's nice to see. So let's get started with the presentation. Gotta tap my slides. Here we go. So hiring for C++ with Meeting C++. I'm your host and organizer. So let's go. Just quick overview on Meeting C++. Like when you're hiring, when you actually have open positions and you're looking for a service to use to find candidates, Meeting C++ can give you huge visibility. LinkedIn and Twitter are now above 30,000 followers, and in total, if you add them together, they have reached over 1 million developers and impressions in the month. So to this comes YouTube, to this comes Facebook, which also have about 25,000 followers each. So alone in followers now we are way above the 100K. And so for you as a company, if you're looking for devs, that is untapped possibilities, a community outreach, which you did not have prior to that. So this is at your fingertips. This is what I offer to you, this network. In the prior job fair, in the last event, we had actually a company with one position, and they found 3 devs which they would like to hire for this position. And they were like, well, actually, currently we're discussing if hire them all or who of them. And that said, it's of course not always the case that if a company makes an offer that they get to hire the person, because the good devs are still in high demand, which I'll get later too. I published in the blog earlier this year the results, an overview from the 256 candidates which submitted, and a little bit data on that. I will publish a blog post about something I'm gonna cover in this talk, which is skills by region. The way the job fair works, there's a CV upload form, which we're gonna talk a bit about too. And if we have a lot of candidates submit through that form, it will give us a lot of data. And if we put an aggregate, we get actually interesting graphs, which you'll see later. The last event actually, for the first time ever, had 100 folks submit their CVs. So we had 100 submissions. So like every number from that event is a %, which is rather nice, right? And with that, let's just generally talk about the topic of hiring. And FFB, I keep hearing that C++ devs are hard to find, and for years. So why is that, right? For a long time, everyone has been looking. That's not right now the case, but it's still the case that a lot of companies are looking, though there's a lot of competition. But then there's also like the way companies are looking. You get a lot of messages. These messages are from Xing, so they're in German, and they are towards me, and I'm definitely not looking. But those people just spam everyone, and yeah, that's how you find a candidate, and you fill your role, but you alienate like the other 99%, which you reach to, And those messages always claim that those people look at your profile. Artisan hiring. We're looking at profiles, and we're only selecting the best fitting one. That's not the case. You would have seen that, in my profile, I actually have or had. Xing is a thing of the past actually now, that I'm not looking for jobs. And some headhunters actually write me if that's changed, which is okay, but don't spam me like that, And the other point I want to mention is like misgendering. That happened to me once, and maybe it happened to you once. If you're a man, if you're a woman, happens like once a week, once a month, and it's like such a common thing which really alienates women in our community. And so yeah, that's really where headhunters in our community needs to do better in this regard. And when I started doing these talks, I was like, well, actually, I would like to have some data on this from the community. So in 2021 and 2022, and 2021 is not relevant anymore, so I only have the data from 2022 in here. So the question is, if you are not looking for a job, how many headhunters, recruiters, companies have contacted you for one within the last 3 months? And here you see this was exactly 1 month ago that the survey started, and it's more than 10 companies is 30%, and more than 5 companies contacting or headhunters contacting you is 45% of the community. These numbers are probably this year a bit different, but this year had a different question, which I'm gonna get in the next slide too. Now let's first look at the results from LinkedIn, where we see that LinkedIn is similar. Just it's if we add the more than 5 together, then it's 59% of the audience. So it's a bit too much, and that's like one of my motivations to change that is like to give companies more direct access to the audience they're looking for people to hire. Which saying this is like for me the big question this year is with all the news of at least big companies which get the news right, letting people go. Is that like a trend? Is that like most of things? What is in our community happening? And so I asked, your employer is currently hiring, not hiring, or letting folks go? And these are the Twitter results. So you see 48% on Twitter and 36%. 48 are hiring, 36.5% are not hiring, and 15.5% are actually letting people go. So yes, there's some companies which need to reorient them, and I think that we will see some more of that this year, as with refinancing companies and startups with money from investors and banks and VCs will become a lot more difficult. And if you look at the from Twitter to LinkedIn, then you see same question, and these numbers are remarkably similar, just 48, 35, and 17%. So there's a few more people on LinkedIn active who are either have been let go from their employer or have had teams being set free, and they're still like having a job. But so maybe they're also then that if like some co-workers of you that have been let go, and you might don't want to wait for the next round, right? You're looking. So no wonder that there's more people on LinkedIn with that. But the numbers are similar. They're so close. It's 48%, and then it's not hiring and letting folks go, which are just a few percentages out of. So that's interesting. And with that, let me quickly read the chat. I see there's more audiences from all over the world. Nigeria, I see twice. Mexico, Egypt, Iran, Nigeria. Yeah. Thank you for coming. So okay. Then if you have any questions about this or any comments, then post them to the chat. Right now, I don't see any questions in the chat that made it to the software here. Then we'll continue with the data on the job fair. And let's go. So 2.5 years ago, 2020, soon it's going to be 3 years in September. I started the Meeting C++ online user group, and as part of that, I was thinking, what can we offer for hiring? Remote and working from home became suddenly an option for people. And also like online events were big, and companies always were eager to find new devs in any way. I thought maybe this is a time to build a new event, a new format. And so the Meeting C++ online job fair was created, which basically has a goal to bring together those that are looking. The companies can attend, and then the candidates are just able to hop from table to table. And this is Remo, the actual platform which we used 2 years ago when we hosted in March. And since fall of 2021, we're actually using Hobilo. And so this year, the job fair will be in March, May, September, and November. And the next job fair, which I already mentioned, is in May 9th and 10th. It was just a few weeks away. The job fair concept is basically the candidates, can join any table or hop from table to table, as I already said. And the conversation is about the companies and, of course, what they do with C++, about the candidates, what they do with C++, and if there's a match. The event is on 2 days. On the first day, it's on at 3 o'clock in the 3 o'clock in the afternoon. CST is like Central European summertime. Think Berlin or Amsterdam. Okay, so London is an hour ahead of us. So second day is the evening, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., 20 o'clock, Berlin, Amsterdam, and each of those meetings last for 3 hours, where people sit on those tables and talk to the candidates, and the candidates can meet the various companies. And there's always a welcome table where usually I sit on and then chat to candidates that are coming in that have technical issues or just questions or just want to come by and say hi. Always nice. And then there's the CV sharing form, which I also already hinted at. This is always online and will then be used to capture the candidates that are either coming to the job fair or maybe not have time to be coming to one of those three, 2 times 3 hours, and then everyone is again busy in their lives, but people are still looking for jobs. And though the CV sharing form is a big part of this, this event basically is a traffic generator for the CV sharing form to make people aware that they can reach out to those developers, and to make people aware that if you're looking for a job, that you can reach out to those employers. So these are actually not current plans. I should have changed the slide. This were the current plans for the previous event, and that was a success. So we're going to do that from now on every time. The live stream with an employer intro will be the welcome message and kicking off. Will be also going on into LinkedIn to gather an additional audience, and the goals that has worked wonderfully. So we're going to keep doing that. And actually next week we have a fair, but it's not a job fair, it's a book and tool fair, and we're going to do the same thing. So that has been a very good add-on, which we did in this year to the fair events. And I do offer employer branding. So if your company, if your employer is looking for a way to reach out to our community, I am happy to facilitate you as a sponsor of the user group meeting, or just have your own live stream. If your HR folks want to gather a few team leads and talk C++ with us in an evening or an afternoon, I'd be happy to host that. And if you have your own ideas, of course, I'm open to that. Now we're going to talk a bit about the CV sharing form. It's always online, and the job fair sponsorship gives you 6 months of listing. This is also to give you a bit of help with finding candidates and giving candidates a bit of help on reaching companies. So for 6 months, if you book this, you're listed. And so if the job fair, if we don't have enough companies at the job fair and we don't attract as many candidates, which currently will probably not be the case, because currently a lot of people are looking, like 15%, 17% of companies are letting people go. There's a very good job market right now for people that are looking for devs. So here you see the form, which I've already mentioned a few times. This allows candidates to share their CV, as the name is, with the sponsors and the past sponsors, which are then in the employer listing. And the overall thought of this first page of the form is to create a light profile, which, has certain things in it, like the relocation remote things, where the candidate is from, the C++ skills, the field of work where you have gathered your experiences, and the years of experience in total. And as every candidate that uses this form gives us a little bit of data, and if we aggregate that, we get to have some interesting graphs. So if we look at that, this is the data from last year. Last year we had 256 candidates and from 57 countries. I want to say that we always don't over. Some companies see this graph and think like, well, whoa, only one candidate from Denmark. But yeah, we also didn't have any I think no companies from Denmark. So it's always a chicken and egg problem. Most of the companies which we have right now are European companies which are coming to the fair, and the audience is at the moment, and we're going to see that in this presentation, mostly from Asia and Europe. So the job fair in this year in March, 36 countries. Again, India is in the lead, and then we have Germany, United States, some Asian countries, some wild mix of European countries with various candidates, and some candidates from the rest of the world, more or less. This is the skilled graph for last year. And the top 5 is C++ 11, C++ 14, Linux, C++ 17, and object orientation here. Let's look at the graph for... right. So yeah, we had 250 candidates last year, right? 256. So 50 is 20%, then 100 is 40%, 60% is 150. So we see the top 6 are actually 60% of the candidates know this, and 80% is only C++ 11. And I assume that C++ 11 is probably close to 100% in the candidate field, but there's some candidates which do not choose C++ 11 because they are already on C++ 17 and 14 and 20. So this is the data now for March, with Linux being slightly in the lead. It's like 80%. It's right. We have every number here is a percent. So over 80% is Linux and C++ 11. And then at 70% is 14 and 17, and CMake almost hits the 70%. And then we get, it gets less and less and less. And yeah, the last of the really influencing things, which like 30% have, is C++ 20. And then we see everything below that is under 20%. Which is understandable. That's just new technologies and old things which are not so much, which also candidates probably, more candidates will have experience with MFC, but they probably don't, are interested in a position. They're not looking for an MFC position. So they're not having that in this form so much. So here we look now at the regions, and this is for the first event of this year, 35 candidates from Asia. And this is part of the candidate profile again, So this time we have C++ 11, Linux, C++ 98, 14, 17 in the top 5, and followed by, object orientation, etc. So Asia and North America is one of the sources for C++ 98, which was one of the things which stood out to me, that so many people actually choose C++ 98 in the first job fair this year. And then we look at the overall from last year and this year, and we see that the top 5 is pretty much what we've seen in other data. It's C++ 11, 14 Linux, object orientation, and 17, followed by Windows 98, modern C++, and CMake. We'll see if we go to Europe, CMake actually becomes more and more popular or important to candidates, and candidates, identify with that. Linux CMakes 11, 14, and C++ 17 are the top 5 here in Europe. There's 40 candidates for the last event. And again, if we look at the aggregate for the last year and this year, it changes to C++ 11, Linux 14, CMake, and modern C++ being in the top 5, with C++ 17 probably also gaining over time. So we'll see how this matches out over time. But this is like, with Europe, you see that Qt is more popular, and then next is North America, you'll see Qt is not as popular as Boost as it is here in this graph. So North America, we only had 11 candidates, which is actually good. And so this is where we fail to have a statistically relevant graph. I do want to mention that, okay? This is just 11 candidates. If we had 20 candidates, this graph would look totally different. Again, the things we've seen as popular is already like in the top 5. C++ 11, modern C++, CMake, C++ 14, 17, object orientation, unit testing, and Linux. The unit testing probably, will fall behind, and other things will become more popular. But it also depends, which candidates do we attract from North America, from which region. If you take the aggregate, that's aggregate for you. That's the aggregate for North America. We see like 43 candidates from last year, and this year came from North America. C++ 11, Linux 17, modern C++ and 14, and object orientation are the top 5. What I find interesting is that in this graph now, C++ 17 is ahead of 14. And the other regions, it's the other way around. And as I already mentioned, Qt is not as popular as Boost. And there's, a lot of minor things going on. CMake is also here in the big group in the middle. Then we have fields of work. Last year, we always have desktop and embedded. That's like the most popular ones, where people naturally, when they work with C++, had, to deal with. So they are always in the first 2 places for now. And then we had telecommunications, server, and finance. And for the first event in this year, we had, again, the top 2 is clear. Then automotive, server, other, finance, and science. But there's another change in here, which I found interesting, which I noticed. If you look at AI here, last year we had, it's 21, maybe 22 candidates for AI, right? Or a bit more. Probably aerospace should be 21. So that's like 20, maybe 25. Probably not, 23. It doesn't matter. If we look at the graph from the first event this year, people that, have experience with AI suddenly jump to 20, which is less than last year, right? But it's the first event. So we have 3 more events to go. So AI is really doing a jump in here and going more into this midfield. And, maybe that's part of the hype. We'll see. But I find it interesting to see that this field is actually catching up. The thing I cannot say is is that something that employers are looking for? I don't think we had an AI company or a company that is really looking for that in the last job fair. So that's not the explanation for that. And then we always have years of experience. which, as I like to say, it's 1/3 with more than 10 years and about 1/3 with up to 5 years experience, and then 1/3 between that. That seems to be the rule. So we have people with 25 years more experience, and it kind of stays true. The biggest bar here is also from last year. There has been like 1 year experience of people joining or wanting to join the industry coming in. That's also, again, in this year, naturally there. And that is all the data from the CV sharing form. I'm looking at some other ways to do that. I'm probably with Meeting Embedded going to look at the skills of the folks hitting Embedded and comparing it to other things. But that's probably then in the next presentation or something. So again, this creates a light candidate profile, and the companies actually can filter on this, okay? If a company is like, we are using heavily Boost, and if a candidate doesn't know Boost, doesn't assign Boost, we're not interested, or Qt, or they're like saying, well, modern C++ is a must, or code base is written in C++ 17, so the candidate we want to interview should have C++ 17. Then they can, make a combination of those things and say, like, we choose 5 things which are important to us, which a candidate can match to, and we want to have at least 2 of those covered. That would be, for example, a good experience for them to filter on that and find candidates. It also depends, like, how many open positions, what they're looking for. Large companies hiring for whole teams, they have like 20 teams and 10 positions. And then there's a small company which hires for 1 position. It's a big difference, and I kind of have to accommodate both. For the candidate, the next steps are to upload the resume, of course, to select the companies. It's something I want to stress on here. The companies do not get your data by default. You have to choose that, okay? Still your choice, candidate's choice, not the company's choice to contact you. They get the data only if you wanted to share the data with them. And some people then also add a general cover letter, which is optional, but of course always nice to do that. And from the candidate perspective, this is how this looks. I will mention the 100 candidates which we had in the last event, and prior to that we were like around 60 candidates with each event. And the 2 events you actually see which are below 60 by a bit, these are the May and June events from last year, where this is back to back, and probably would be 1 point with 1 event around 60. And I do want to stress again, like, the attending companies also clearly influence the audience which is coming and which is using this form, right? If we have an automotive company, then there will be more automotive. If we have an IA company, then we will have more AI. And if we have, like, a financial company, we'll have people from the financial world. So this event, if you'd like to be part as an employer, there are sponsor tables which will, as part of the sponsoring, will give you all of the things I've showed you and will show you. You're listed in the CV sharing form website and job section with your logo and link. There will be an introduction in the live stream. Access to the recruiting tooling. This enables, of course, the advertising. I can tell people that you're coming, and drives and guides the tooling for me. And the free tables are only for the event, so the CV sharing form is off limit for you. You're listed below the sponsor tables, of course, and it's kind of, get a feel for the event, and it's for that I have to limit it to 2 visits, and you get a smaller table. Quickly also explaining what a table is. A table is a video room with 8, 4, or 2 seats. Everyone is able to join by clicking on a seat. Once 2 folks sit, a meeting starts, and meetings have their own view, are limited to 1 hour by Hubilo, and you rejoin your table at the end when you have to do that manually. This is a Hubilo feature which I think is it a bug or is it a feature? I'm torn with this. Hubilo gives you this meeting which is going for 1 hour, and then they simply don't warn you. They just kick you out of the table because the meeting is over. It's kind of, yeah. But on the pro side for the companies, on the recruiter view, it frees your table for new candidates, and some companies really have like the table full for 3 hours, so they're happy if they can talk to other candidates. And not every candidate closes the connection or automatically leaves your table, so that frees your table again from people taking up space. As in this system, there is no unlimited way to join tables. Quick view on the recruiting tooling. From the employer side, yes, you get the graphs I showed you for the candidates that have submitted to you. You see below is this table view where you also can sort after country, name, and date and time to find candidates again. And this, these graphs also help you if you have to present on the results of the fair to show what was the general knowledge of the candidates and where did they come from, etc. There's a search form, which is necessary. Now we have over 100 candidates or 100 candidates submitting, and soon probably more than that. So a company can expect 50, 60, 70, or maybe 100 submissions. And if you have multiple positions, you might want to look for this team uses Boost, you look for Boost. This team uses Qt, you look for Qt. You're using C++ 20 already. Yeah, better filter the candidates for that, and maybe for 17, so that they're learning in your team then, or you're using a package manager, things like that, or you have an embedded position and the other position is image processing. That helps with searching your candidate pool, and then to get an overview on the candidates you want to contact again. And that is a job fair. It's a long-time project because I think that with employer support, we can make this work. For employers, please sign up early. It helps me with the advertising of the event. I cannot advertise an empty event, come to my job fair and there's no employers coming. That's not so good. So sign up early is always helpful if you're returning to the event or if you want to go. And so tell your HR to do that early. If you can forward that today, that would be helpful. Also, it's a long-time project because, from the developers I reach right now for this event, probably from 100 developers, it's useful for 5 or 10 at max. But the other 90 happen to know about the event, and maybe in a year or two, they are in the position to know about this, or maybe they later in the year or also right now are able to have someone else say no from someone from the team that, was downsized. And let me quickly look into the chat again. I see there's a question. So Milad asked, find remote job for C++ is harder than other languages. You agree? I don't know. I'm not able to compare that. I have no remote working experience across multiple languages. And so I see that remote positions have become much more common in the world, but I also see right now we had this today is a remote position in India, but you can work from anywhere in India. So it's remote in India, which I find interesting. And there's a lot of people which, of course, look for remote work from India and other parts of the world. And there's still the other component, of course, that people are looking for folks that can only partly work remote. But yeah, it's a question which I find interesting. If you have experience on that, please, put it in the chat. But I don't know a lot about the company side, in hiring. The feedback from the companies is there sometimes, but it's not a lot. Okay. And I see there's more people joining from all around the world. Someone new from Malaysia. Hello, Malaysia. That's awesome to see. Let's continue with the presentation then again. So if you're looking for a job, right now this form has 8 companies, which are King, Imagely, Lade, Da Vinci, Quasar, Ambition, Zülke, and Native Instruments. These are listed in the form, and if you use the form, then these are the companies which you can reach out to. And just to give you an overview, like, how does this work? The new submission form goes to the employers, and actually, like, when you chose the companies, I will, look at your submission, and some people submit twice or something. Then I only send one of them. But the next step basically is then that your CV is getting emailed per attachment to those employers, and then they can choose to answer that email to you. That is how it works today. This is a model which is used by most companies. But also internally, of course, this creates an application state at Meeting C++, which also can, be altered through the filtered search. And currently, I do not have like a view on the state for you as a candidate, because most companies are just using their own processes and they don't integrate the tooling which I have. They may or may not look at that and use the graphs maybe for their presentations, but right now it does not make sense to have like a candidate view on your submissions, because most companies either will contact you directly, or that you didn't hear from them. Then that's gonna be also clear why they're not talking to you, because they probably found someone else or they're not interested. Some companies actually talk to everyone, and that's nice. Not all of the companies do this. And the submission form creates a light profile of skills, field of work, region, which is continents, and the years of experience. And companies may filter or search on these if they want to. And we as a community get out of this a better hiring, an easier way to connect to the community for employers so that we can include them, but also, to have less headhunters which need to be hired because companies can't find devs. Actually, C++ devs which want to be hired are out there, and so trying to connect those people. And of course, my work is, funded through this, which is also nice. It's still a win-win situation for the company, because the money I take is compared really small cash to what you spend on hiring in bigger companies. So being on this platform really, really helps you to actually reduce your budget for hiring. And as a platform, that's what I'm working on, Meeting C++ as a platform and network for C++. And with that, I'm looking for employers to join the next job fair. And also want to say thanks to the companies which have joined that already, and who joined in the past, who have supported that, who brought us to the point which we are today at, that this is a thing and has been for the last 2 years. It's really great. And quick reminder, 8 companies are currently listed at cvupload.meetingcpp.com. You can go and find your, fill out the form and then see which of those companies are currently hiring and are interested in you. And with that, thanks for listening. The next job fair is May 9th and 10th. You can reach out to me via email or on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll be answering them in a second. And if you want to have more information on the job fair, it's available under jobfair.meetingcpp.com. And I'll be looking in the chat now. I see a comment from Simon Toth on the remote question we had earlier. Yeah, so that's probably also the other thing. Remote outside of their primary region is legally complicated for companies. That is true. There's a lot of things, time zones, legal things, and yeah. But if you have any questions on the event, if you're hiring, will there be a breakout room like on Hobilo? The event is hosted on Hobilo, Jonathan. So the job fair will be hosted on Hobilo in the lounge. So this is we're kicking off as a live stream, but then we will be using the lounge. So yeah. Yes, thank you for coming, everyone. If there are more questions about the event or about hiring, which we can debate, I'm happy to have this discussion with you now. And a reminder, the next C++ online job fair will be on May 9th and 10th. And I see someone is agreeing with Simon. Yeah, so if you have any more questions, and of course, you can connect with me later or post your questions in the comments later. I will be putting this also on YouTube later. So I think we're coming to the end here. 45 minutes on hiring, I think, is enough for everyone. So thank you for coming. I will be ending the stream now. It was a pleasure once again to speak about this and to see such a worldwide audience. That's really nice. So see you at the job fair and at Mini C++ Online and other places. Thank you for coming.